Hello, welcome to Design Time. I'm Jackie Lacey. Today we're going to talk a little bit about one of the elements and principles of design known as line. We're at that time of the year where we have a lot of new candidates, PFDE candidates for AIFD, that are really studying and practicing all of the elements and principles to prepare for their testing. We also just recently had a class in January covering the elements and principles of design, and all of the students in that class also asked that I just recap this as we go forward. So we're going to do a series over the next coming weeks covering each of the elements and principles of design to make sure that you truly understand, you can see how those are the building blocks of design in everything that we do, whether it be a corsage or a boutonniere, or it be something that you do for a centerpiece or for the stage. Elements and principles of design are the building block. Why design works the way it does. It's not just pulling it all together and happens to fall into place. Even when it looks like that's occurred, there's still going to be some elements and principles that are key to the success of that particular design. So as we move forward, we'll spend a little time on each of them and really explore some of the possibilities to just clarify what evaluators are looking for as they start to do the evaluations during the testing process of an AIFD. Remember, elements and principles, regardless of whether you're testing for AIFD, participating in any kind of competition, are going to be very, very needed. Something that you want to concentrate on. If you have any question on those, be sure and reach out to the AIFD Guide to Floral Design. Specifically, looking this week at line, you can flip to page 132, and there is not only a diagram of all of the types of line, but also a glossary that's included. And that glossary will really explain. Now, sometimes they look like they might be written in French, and we look at it and we go like, what are they saying? And that's one of the reasons that I want to do this. We want to really dispel some of the key problems that we see as we are evaluating or as we're traveling around and working with students on education. As you begin to do your designs, one of the things that I really like to start with is line and form. If I utilize my line to develop my form, those two key aspects are really complete because I'm concentrating on those two. The other things as they come and go, are added in or taken out, really are just going to emphasize that and make it even stronger. Remember that there are certain types of line. And just to clarify, line is the visual path that the eye follows through a composition. So from beginning to end, the pathway that your eye takes is really what line is. Line can be one of two types. It's static or dynamic, and really static line, or it can be actual line. It is visually and physically there. You can touch it. This is a line. We can see it. Generally, static is vertical or horizontal, depending on how it's being used, but it can still be a static line and be very curved or dynamic as some of the products that we use. One of the other things to keep in mind is that line can be implied, which means actual line, I can touch it, I can see it. This is a line. This is a line, although it might be dynamic because it's curved. This is a line, but this happens to be two types of line. We have the actual line, which is the stem. We can touch it, we can see it, it's right there. But also the blooms are an implied line because we see this stretching forward as one. Connecting the dots, so to speak, is the way that the mind takes an implied line and makes it stronger. Now, you can really get both sometimes in things that you're doing. Now, we know this is dynamic already because it's curving, it's flowing. We can manipulate and change the way the line occurs in this. It's still actual. It's a little bit static because it's right there, but remember, remember, it's not static when you are seeing movement involved. And as we start to manipulate this and create the loops and circles, we're moving in and out and around, then that starts to take the eye on a different path. That's where the dynamic comes in as we curve through each of the designs. So make sure that the line that you want to create within a design is what you intend it to be. Now, if we look at this piece here, we can already tell we have several different types of line. We have some very static parallel lines. They're all straight up and down, very rigid. There's not a lot of movement that's directed. It's pretty much straight right there on a vertical path. Then we have added in some dynamic line with the curly willow, taking our eye through there. We've added some implied line because if you will look at the placement of the lilies, specifically starting here, going to the middle, even though they're not right over the top of the other lilies, our mind sees that as one. We see the placement of the lilies in a line there, although they're not connected except by our mind. We have some dynamic line here with the leaves. We've added in both some static and rigid actual line with the berries, and then we get some interactive line with them going at different angles. So it's always key to make sure that you're utilizing the line to really send the message. As we start to look at this horizontal line, we can see very distinctive that this is in place, it's not moving, it's staying put. This fiber stick creates that rigid stability, and that's really what one of the things that lines will do. It will create stability within a design. But then to make that a little more playful and update it, we've added in the curly willow on top of that for that dynamic inclusion that we've got in here. Although these are different floral products, we see the orange as a line through this design because of the colors, the way that they're placed in there. So color can also affect the lines that you're creating. If we look at this centerpiece, which is just a round centerpiece that we've put in a little taller vase, they're grouped, that makes it stronger. We have the sweep of the strelitzia leaves as they come up out of the design, but you can manipulate it and control it just by doing a couple of various things, and look at the difference that this design begins to take when we do that one simple treatment with the foliage, and now we've sheltered the design, we're directing our eye in a specific way off to one direction and really change the whole dynamic and look of that particular design. So remember, as you start to build and develop each of your compositions, what lines are you going to use? How are they going to be created? And what flow are they going to take the eye on as it moves through your composition? It's incredibly important, and you want to make sure that it fits with what you're doing, and that all the other elements and principles are also added in there and paid attention to. I hope this helps you as you begin to move forward in practicing, but as you just do this in your own shops and studios or at home, remember that the elements and principles are the building blocks of design. If we pay attention to them and we look at each piece that we do and how that works together, you'll see that your designs become stronger and that they just have a little more creative edge that allows you to say, that contains the elements and principles of design. Remember, we've already said that most designs are going to have multiple types of line. We have looked at the lilies in the other design, but in this one we can see that the yellow connects the three placements of that. So that implied line, having an actual static line that supports it with the stem, is coupled with this vertical line or bundles that we've created that's very rigid. So this is a line design. We're using line as the major or primary element in this particular design to make it stronger. You can continue to build on that, but you want to be cautious, making sure that if you decide that you're going to add in some dynamic line, remember dynamic line is curving, flowing, taking your eye in and out and through there. You can do that, but you want everything you do within a design to strengthen each one that you're doing. So as you begin to add other types of line in there, make sure that you're not taking away from that final product or convoluting what you're doing. Everything we're adding in here is still in that stringent vertical space, but if we pop in one or two horizontal lines, look at how just that little bit really stands out, because now we've got all the vertical lines going on and we've crisscrossed that with a horizontal line. Sometimes it will work. We've also created an inverted T design as we've done that in there, but sometimes it can break down your design. So line can help or hurt. When you're putting multiple lines within the design, you want to make sure again that each of them are strengthening. And we see here that we're using some parallel lines for a strict, static, vertical design, but we're also using the implied color through various products. We can see the purple sort of coordinates with the hot pink, and then that combination is that pinky purple color on the bottom. Still a strong line, still in a parallel system. But remember, parallel means that the lines will never intersect. When we start to add in this rose, add a little bit of a slant, and if you look at it from the side, you can see how it cuts in. That is not a parallel insertion. So it is important that you make sure if you're creating parallel lines that they are truly parallel. Anything put in at a slant is going to crisscross the other lines, which will take it away from being a parallel type of insertion. You want to be careful and make sure that you understand exactly what you want to do. One of the really fun things to do are to create those interactive lines and to do it in a way that's unexpected. Someone will want to come up here and touch and look at all of the movement that we've created with the way that we've manipulated the foliage down in the bottom. We've added in the beautiful equisetum and then brought it up and then interactively connected all of those lines in the top. One caution though, as we can see, adding in that lily grass as a last step because we wanted a little bit of dynamic movement can convolute or actually have too much going on. If we take out those dynamic lines of the lily grass, then we can see how much stronger the interactive lines are. So making sure that you cautiously add lines together and in a placement within a design can make or break it, or to push your scores up if you are doing evaluation for certification or competing. You want to make sure, don't overdo it. Stick with one, maybe two types, sometimes three can work, but the placement is going to be key on how those work together. Thank you so much for joining us for Design Time. Join us again next time. If you enjoyed that video and you'd like to see more, click the subscribe button.